be delusional, how to bypass the ego, the logic, the how, the when, the waiting for it. We're going to talk about how to bypass that today, as written thousands of years ago, as were taught to the ancient masters. Now, I'm going to take you to John 21:6. Once again, I'm not a religious individual. Probably far from religious entirely. No. I have a Quran, I have a Bhagavad Gita, I have a Torah, I have a Talmud, I have the Bible, I have the Nag Hammadi text, I have an Apocrypha. I am simply a student of wisdom. And anywhere that I can find wisdom to utilize for self-mastery and control over reality, that's where I come in. So, John 21:6. Now, to give you the context of this particular verse, Jesus and the disciples, the 12 disciples, which represent the 12 disciplines of you disciplining the lower aspects of yourself. Thomas, for example, representing doubt. When you're able to overcome these 12 lower natures of yourself, then you can then follow the Christ level of consciousness. But anyways, the context of this particular story, Jesus had taken the disciples fishing. Now, they're on the boat in the sea. The disciples, fish, right? So the disciples cast their nets to the left side of the boat. And they had no fish. None. The moment that they threw their nets to the left side, there was no fish. They pulled it up, it was empty, they were like, damn, what's going on here? But, and I'll put out here to represent the left side of the boat. But, the moment the disciples saw that their nets were empty, Jesus Christ, the highest level of consciousness, the unity, as it says in Philippians 2:5-6, let this mind of Christ be in within you, who didn't find it robbery to be equal with God. What Christ said to them in John 21:6 is, cast your nets to the right side of the boat. And what happened was, when the disciples threw their nets to the right side of the boat, they had so many fish that they couldn't even pull in the net. As simplistic as this sounds, well, why is there fish, on the right side but not on the left side? What this story is truly representing to you is something deep and esoteric, which is two natures that are within you. You are the boat. Your mind is the boat. Whenever we attempt to cast our nets to the left side, we never really get what it is we want. And the issue is, I'm going to talk about what the left side represents here so you truly have a full understanding. Also how to bypass it so you can actually begin to pull in the net of whatever it is that you're trying to materialize. The net just represents you casting out a frequency for you to reel in, pull back up with your net to materialize down into the physical plane that we call reality. Now, it's important for you to understand, like I said, and forgive my drawing, I've never been an artist with my words, I guess.
Communications, collaboration, speed. 5th grade. Dropbox gives your team the tools they need for smoother collaboration, so they deliver better.
This is the boat. You can just imagine it on a bird's eye view level, right? The left side is where the disciples first casted their nets, where there was no fish. What the left side is truly referencing, esoterically by the way, is the left hemisphere of the brain. And the left hemisphere of the brain is what we would call the logical, the rational, the make sense part of the brain. And essentially, what this story is esoterically representing is the fact that anytime you attempt to be logical, rational, or go from a place of sense, you will never materialize what it is that you want. And the way that you can conceptualize this is, think about any time you've had a particular desire that you want to materialize. And this happened with, one of my clients, Mr. Opulent. He, for a period of time, was saying to me, how's this gonna happen? How's this gonna happen? And this is the process I actually took him through. And he was stuck at 2 million for 7 years, and he secured a contract of 10.8 million for his medical company in just 5 weeks of understanding what I'm about to say. Now, if you're an entrepreneur that's done with grinding and you're interested in 2xing or 5xing your revenue in like 7 weeks or less, then check out the link in the description and I shall show you the Awaken Entrepreneur frequency. But anytime that you attempt to be logical or rational when it comes to your desired reality, you're always going to hear a couple of things in your head. You're always going to hear, stop lying, come on, I know you're broke, you're not really rich. These things that you try to tell yourself. You're going to hear stop lying, you're going to hear how, you're going to hear when, and you're going to be looking for one thing, and that one thing is evidence. So long as you stay on this side, casting your nets to the left, it ain't gonna happen to you. You're not gonna materialize what you want, just to be real with you. And this is one of the biggest hurdles that people come into when they attempt to materialize their reality. You know, unfortunately, the left part of their brain waits. Now, what does the right side of the boat represent? It represents plenty. It represents attainment. Of your particular desire. Now, the right hemisphere of the brain, this is where the real Christ is. Where was Christ crucified? He was crucified in the east. Pull up a compass, see which direction east points to. It points to the right. Where was Christ resurrected? In the east. Where do you awaken the Christ within? In the east, the right hemisphere of the brain. The right hemisphere of the brain is the aspect of you that is spiritual, emotional, and would be considered by everyone around you delusional. Now, the disciples were taught, which represent the ancient masters, because like I said, 12 disciples, 12 disciplines of the lower self, which once they are disciplined, they're able to follow Christ. Go read the stories of each of the disciples. They had an aspect of their lower self to then conquer, whether courage, whether faith, whether doubt. And once they conquered these things, they were then able to follow the Christ, the higher nature. Once again, these are all esoteric representations of what happens within you. Now, understanding that delusion being the last one, it gets a bad rep, right? Because unfortunately, this is what the ancient masters were taught on how to materialize whatever it is that they want. And until you, my friend, whoever you are watching this, can go from this side to this side, you're not going to materialize what you want. Because in order for you to materialize what you want, you're going to have to give up the logical. You're going to have to give up the rational. You're going to have to give up shit making sense. You're going to have to. So if you can't do that, kindly leave this video, probably also unsubscribe, because it's just not going to work out between me and you, and I'd rather neither of our times are wasted. But if you can, and if you're willing to give up these things, and to also give up the how, the when, the looking for evidence, then our journey through getting you to activating the right hemisphere of your brain will be very easy. And so materializing your desired reality will also be very easy. I do this for a living. I'm literally hired by the entrepreneurs to do this, so best believe I know what I'm talking about. Now, it's important that we actually redefine a couple of things, because the way that you label things, the labels that you use to describe your reality actually mold your reality. Your definitions of things is always followed through by energy. That energy is used to then build the world that you live in, because despite you living in the same planet as me, you don't live in the same world as me. There's one Earth, 8 billion worlds. And the world that you live in is also going to be determined by your level of consciousness and the frequency that you're on. If somebody's telling you there's no opportunities around and they're trying to do better, but it's just not working for them, that is what they're materializing and projecting into their reality. So they are right. And if you believe there are opportunities everywhere and you come across these opportunities and you materialize them into your reality, then you are also right. Nobody is right, nobody's wrong. This is why in the Hermetic tradition, one of the most prolific sayings for the law of polarity, one of the axioms for the law of polarity is actually all truths are half truths. That's straight out the manual. If you haven't got that, I suggest you read it. Out of the nearly 400 books I've read on spirituality, it is definitely top 5. I will probably do a top book list soon because there's a lot of nonsense, there's a lot of fluff, there's a lot of corny, new agey woo-woo, and I'm not into all of that. Now, going back to what I was saying about delusion, I actually keep this up because it's quite useful.
You know, like, I know they tired of me. I like 10 hours. She needs a president. She should be president.
Delusion is how it will be defined by people who aren't on your frequency. Now, I'm not saying jump off a building and think that you'll survive, because there's a difference between self-imposed limits and actual limits. For the most part, what people deem to be delusional are the self-imposed limits of what they're able to actually achieve. So it makes sense that we start off by saying, before defining what delusion is, it's important we actually define what it means to make sense. Now, when we talk about making sense, when we talk about logic, when we talk about being a rational, logical person, what we're really talking about is a fraction of the entirety of reality. Now, unfortunately, due to the way our ego is constructed, we can only see 0.035% of the entirety of the electromagnetic